welcome back to our show Dreams, Passion and Your Hong Kong Story. Today we have with us a very passionate social activist, Sally Anderson from Hong Kong Dog Rescue. Welcome, Sally, to our show.
Thank you.
So Sally founded Hong Kong Dog Rescue in 2003, and her mission in life is to rescue, rehabilitate and rehome all abandoned and unwanted dogs of Hong Kong. She is a great social activist, and her activism lies to bring the humans together to show their kindness towards all the dogs who do not have homes in Hong Kong. Let's talk to Sally and find out what HKDR is doing in this regard and what have they achieved so far. So Sally, tell us, when did you come to Hong Kong and where are you originally from?
Well, I suppose I would say I'm from London, and I came to Hong Kong in 1984. I actually sailed here from Taiwan with a friend. And the idea was that I was going to spend 6 months here and then carry on traveling. But Hong Kong was very easy in those days as a British colony, and being a British citizen. You could come and go, you didn't need a visa and all the rest of it. So I used Hong Kong as a base.
So what motivated you to start HKDR?
Well, when I moved to 𝐴𝑚𝑎 in 1986, there were a lot of, there was a little island off the bay where I was, and then someone said to me, oh, people dump their dogs there. So, and she said, there's one specific dog, will you look after him until I find him a home? So I took him.
Your friend said that?
Yes. Okay. So I took that one particular dog, Bruno, and of course he stayed. Okay. And then another dog from the island, and then another dog, and eventually I had 5 dogs. And then so after that, the dogs would continue to be dumped there, but I couldn't keep taking them in, so I started rehoming.
So when you say they were dumped there, so this is AFCD?
No, this is an island off 𝐴𝑚𝑎, and it was the fishermen.
I see.
That they would just drop off dogs and puppies there that they didn't want anymore. And so I started rehoming through my friends. I was going to the gym in those days, and so I had all my gym friends in my aerobics class and everything. So they all ended up having to adopt a dog. And then I had to ask AFCD to help me catch some of the dogs on the island because I wanted to get them desexed, even if I couldn't rehome them. So then I went to take these 3 dogs out of the AFCD centre, and that's when I saw for the first time the kennels, and that there were all these other dogs and puppies, and it was just full of all these dogs. And I asked what happened to them, and they would all just be put to sleep. Oh. And there was one little schnauzer in the kennel, and I asked if I could take it because I knew I could home it, and so they let me take it, and I homed it to my neighbour. So after that I started going back and taking one dog at a time. At that time the policy was no dog going in ever left. And then the senior AFCD vet at the time was an English guy, and he was really helpful, and he was the one that really pushed to force them to let me take the dogs. Right. But he said to me, as an individual, you can't really take dogs. You have to form an organisation and then you can take them out as. So that's why I started Hong Kong Dog Rescue.
So tell us something about Hong Kong Dog Rescue.
Well, that's how it started. It started because I had to form this organisation to be able to continue taking the dogs. And
so how many centres do you have today, and how many dogs do you home now?
Well, we have over 600 dogs.
Okay.
And we have 2 centres. We've got one in 𝑎𝑝 𝐢, which is for the smaller dogs and puppies, and then a very big one in Tai Po. When I first started at Hong Kong Dog Rescue, all of the dogs came back to my home on Llama because there was nowhere else for them to go.
Wow.
Then somebody who was renting the old Fulham kennels, which is right next to where AFCD is, said they only used half of their kennels. Did we want to have the other half?
I see.
So of course that was fantastic. It was right next to AFCD. It was a purpose-built kennels, and they were giving it to us for free.
Wow.
So that was really the start of, you know, HKDR as a organisation proper, in that we had kennels. We started to recruit volunteers. And then obviously the numbers of dogs grew and the numbers of volunteers grew. And then in 2010, property company who actually owned the land said that they wanted to have it back, and we had to move out. And that was a desperate time, because where do you go? You know, you've got a purpose-built kennel and it's full of dogs.
Right.
And
600 dogs?
Well, no, we didn't have 600 then, but we had 100. You know, even with 100 dogs, where do you go? And then someone offered this place in Tai Po. You know, he said, you can just go and look at it, see if you like it, you know, at least have it for 6 months. It will give you time to find somewhere else. Well, that was in 2010 and we're still there.
Wow.
So, you know, it's, and our 100 dogs has grown to, you know, 400 dogs there. And yeah, so that's...
So what were, I mean, of course, this was one of the challenges that you're talking about that came your way, you know, when you decided to start HKDR.
Yeah.
Tell us some of the other challenges that you faced when you decided to start the rescue shelter. And how did you overcome them?
Well, the challenge is exactly that. I don't know if you know about the laws in Hong Kong regarding land and zoning and use and everything. All land is zoned for residential, agricultural, this, that and the other. So even all of the time we were looking for land, and sometimes we found somewhere suitable, and then you have to apply to the government, you know, to get for usage.
Right.
And then we'd get objections.
Oh.
No, you can't use it for that. All the villages, local villages would object, or everything. So it didn't matter. Wherever we went, we hit a stone wall. But, you know, we were lucky because we've got the Tai Po site, and it's just been incredible that it came along.
So did you receive a lot of voluntary support from people in Hong Kong?
Well, yeah, but it started small. You know, when we took over the kennels in Fulham,
okay,
we started to recruit, you know, 2 volunteers, 3, 4, and obviously there are a lot of people living in the area, so a lot of people started to come to help out. It was a very convenient place for, you know, for volunteers to come.
So in your center, in your shelter, where do you get the dogs from?
Well, mostly from AFCD, from the government.
Okay.
They get them either from people who surrender their dogs, or the dog catchers go out and pick up dogs, or breeders will hand in dogs that they don't want anymore, you know, when they're no more use to them.
You have a big center running, and you know it's must be very expensive, because to house and, you know, kind of keep them for so long till they find a home that can take them. It's a huge cost. So where do you get all your financial support from?
Yeah, I mean, our running costs are about $1 million a month.
Wow.
And so we have to obviously bring in the money to be able to support that. And so we have, there's an adoption fee, you know, if you adopt a dog, which basically covers what we've done for the dog, you know, the vaccinations, the heartworm test, and everything. So it's not an income as such, but it balances some of what we pay out. We get some of that back with adoption fees. We have fundraising events. We have promotions. A lot of companies now will contact us to do combined promotions, so that we get, you know, stuff from that, and basically just rely on. We have a monthly sponsorship program called the Lifesaver Club, where people can sponsor a specific dog, and then they get, you know, a photo of the dog, and they get updates. So it's like, you know, adopting a dog, except you don't actually take it at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's also very, very valuable to us, you know, to have a steady income from that. But one of the things about, which is important in running a rescue organisation, it's not just the dogs, it's bringing in the money. So, you know, there are two parts. You can't do one without the other, because you need that money.
Yes.
And so fundraising and events is a big part of what we do.
So tell us, like, is pet adoption very common in Hong Kong, or are people kind of still getting there? Are you also making some efforts to educate the people that, hey, you know, there are enough of these abandoned dogs, it's much better to go and adopt them and take them to your home than to go to a breeder and buy a new dog?
So we have education programs. We go to schools. We also have corporate CSR program. So we get all the big corporates coming to do their volunteering days, and they come to the homing centres, and they do cleaning and you know, anything, you know, and that's also really good. You know, it's helpful for us, because some of those people will become volunteers, some of those people will become donors, some of those people will become adopters. But in general, it's helping to spread the word.
So it's becoming more common now?
It is, yes. I mean, it's still, as much as we are growing in terms of more people are adopting, still the pet trade is growing, and, you know, there are still a lot of people buying and even importing. So it's frustrating, you know, to see all of the pet shop puppies, you know, when you know that you've got fantastic puppies that just don't have a breed name, you know. And
what's next for you now? What's next for Sally?
Because I haven't left Hong Kong, I haven't had a holiday. Wow. I haven't left Hong Kong since 2006.
Really?
Yeah, I can't, because I've got all those dogs at home. So if I'm looking ahead and thinking, what's next for me, maybe in 10 years I can have a holiday.
Okay, are you ready for your rapid fire question?
Yeah,
now?
sure.
That's getting to know Sally's Hong Kong story in a bit more fun way. So your favorite way to hang yourself loose in Hong Kong?
Well, I'm very lucky because of where I live. And the reason that I think I haven't lost my mind is because I live in this wonderful place on 𝐿𝑎𝑚𝑎, which is away from ferries, is away from everybody else. So I live right on the beach, and when I leave and go home, you know, I'm not in Hong Kong.
Yes, true.
So for me, being at home with the dogs and just by the sea is my sanity.
Your favorite place to walk your dogs in Hong Kong?
𝐿𝑎𝑚𝑎.
Of course, that goes without saying.
Yeah.
But is there any place in Hong Kong Island you think you would recommend?
Well, any of the country parks. I mean, the country parks are amazing.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's Aberdeen Country Park, Tai Tam, Stanley, all those places, you know, and yeah. And even if you're talking about combining dog walking with eating, in Repulse Bay, you know, they've got the promenade, and they've got the Pulse, you know, which is they've got loads of restaurants there, and you can take your dogs and everything, so it's a really nice. We had an event there last year, so it was really good. Yeah.
Oh, nice. And so tell us, you have so many dogs. Which one of it have a special memory for you?
And I suppose just because of their size, I had little dogs, you know, that became like very much pets. And I have one now who's quite famous. Everybody knows about my little dog Murphy, because he's 18 years old.
18 years old?
Yeah.
What breed is he?
He's a cross Shih Tzu Schnauzer.
They live that long?
Yeah, they can live longer than that. And unfortunately, he lost both his eyes, so he doesn't have any eyes. But he's a real character, and so all of my Facebook and HKDR supporters, they all know about Murphy. He's my famous boy.
How
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So tell me, as a Hong Konger, what are you most proud about Hong Kong?
I suppose the reason that I stayed here was because I found it's a really easy place to be in, and it's so safe. You know, even when I was living in London before, and there isn't that feeling that in Hong Kong you can go anywhere,
Yes.
and you never have to look behind you.
Yeah.
You know, going in an underpass, which you'd never do in like London, I always think it's like a bit scary, and I never even think about it. Walking around on my own, it's a very free place and tolerant.
Right.
You can basically do what you want and nobody cares. And I've got to know all the, you know, the locals in Aberdeen, and you know the boats, the sampans that I go backwards and forwards on. Yeah, there's a sense of belonging because it's small, so that you feel that you can belong, but at the same time you can basically do what you want.
You're a dog person and a pet lover. So what would your recommendation be to the pet people all around the world? What do you think from that angle if they want to come to Hong Kong?
I mean, you have to go to the places. I mean, Hong Kong itself isn't a great place for dogs in terms of, you know, dogs being allowed in restaurants or anything like that. But there are areas, you know, Sai Kung, Clearwater Bay, all of those new territories areas where it's a great place to have a dog. So you just have to bear that in mind and just, you know, pick and choose where you're going to go.
Well, thank you so much, Sally, for being with us today.
Well, thank you.
We wish you all the best in all your endeavors.
Stay tuned for our next episode of Dreams, Passion and Your Hong Kong Story, where we shall be bringing you yet another fascinating story from this wonderful place, Hong Kong.